a good time to use disinfectants um, as a safety measure. So don't disinfect food contact surfaces. In general, this is a good a good rule to follow. Um, unless specifically this disinfectant identifies as a disinfectant that can be used for food surfaces. And why is that? That's some chemicals don't evaporate. They're designed that way to linger long after they're used and then ultimately getting in your food later on. So food contact disinfectants, if you do have one of those that can be used on food contact surfaces, is often require you to rinse it afterwards anyway. So think about food contact surfaces as like cutting boards, really porous surfaces, pots and pans, even dishes, cutlery, glasses, cups, and don't put food directly on your counters that have been disinfected because of that lingering chemicals. All right, mixing chemicals. And we're going to talk mostly about bleach here because it's the one that is, works, doesn't mix well with others. So never mix bleach in particular with anything except water, just hands down. Bleach and ammonia can be lethal. Bleach and hydrogen peroxide, dangerous. Bleach and acid. Now, this is in some toilet bowl cleaners, and it might seem intuitive to, I'm going to bleach my toilet bowl and use um, the toilet bowl cleaner in there as well, but that can produce chlorine gas and it can kill you. Uh, Bleach and vinegar, also dangerous. Bleach and isopropyl alcohol, dangerous. And even some safer chemicals, when they're mixed, can be really dangerous. So hydrogen peroxide and vinegar. Who knows? Low levels of exposure, it's just eye, nose, throat irritation, respiratory issues. But at high levels, it can be deadly. So PPE and ventilation. So you'll see a poll pop up here for you. If you use products to disinfect, once again, do you wear protective equipment? 'Give a couple more seconds for folks to answer. %50 with the gloves. Right on. Gloves, goggles. Right on. So what I'll say about, PPE and ventilation is follow the instructions on the label. It'll tell you, what's recommended there. Use appropriate personal protective equipment. The label will describe it. Gloves, mask, goggles, apron. Wash your hands after disinfecting. Even if you're wearing the gloves, uh, dispose dispose of the gloves right away, or wash those gloves right away, and always make sure there's plenty of air flowing through the place. Open a window, open your doors, turn on a fan, whatever you can do to get some extra air flowing through there. All right, dwell time. Dwell time. This is so dwell time is the amount of time that a product needs to be in contact with germs and viruses for a scientifically determined amount of time in order for it to be effective. So the rule here is spray, wait some more, and then wipe. It can be up to a 10-minute dwell time or time on surface. And you might be surprised that some of the products you've been using haven't been using it properly. I know when I learned this, I figured out that I wasn't doing it right. And it needs to stay wet the whole time. If it dries out, then I guess just start all over. But check the label, it will tell you. All right, so if you're not sure if a product is effective against coronavirus, then the EPA's List N can help. EPA puts out lists for all sorts of viruses, so A through M are different particular viruses, and N is coronavirus, or human coronavirus, I should say. You can search on this list for products that are effective against COVID-19. You can search by the EPA's registration number, and any disinfectant is registered by the EPA and has a number stamped on the label. Or you can also search by the active ingredient, the surface type, its location. There's a few different ways to search, but it's a really helpful tool. Use this list to find out if it's protective against coronavirus. The EPA expects that all the chemicals and associated products on this list will kill coronavirus when they're used according to the label directions. It is not, however, it is not an indication that it's safe. And I want to emphasize that because a lot of them aren't safe. And so we'll go through and talk about how to weed those out. But you can find a list, the link that's provided there. And once again, we're going to provide you with this slideshow so you can utilize that. And then there's great advice from the EPA directly on how to look up chemicals on List N. So these are two chemicals that you're going to find on List N all over the place: bleach and quaternary ammonium compounds, or quats. Bleach and quats are disinfectants. They're not cleaners, so they're going to have that registration number if they're in the product. They'll kill most microbes, but they can linger on surfaces long after they're cleaned. So oftentimes they won't play well with others, bleach in particular. Don't mix them with other products, and they can lead to antibiotic resistant bacteria, which is a whole nother public health issue. So bleach in particular, if you're looking at the label, it's going to say sodium hypochlorite. It's commonly used and it's everywhere. I mean, we've all dealt with it. It can create mild irritation, corrosive injury if exposed to skin or eyes, trigger asthma, cause asthma. When combined with acids or ammonia, can cause serious upper respiratory damage or even death. Quaternary ammonium compounds, on the other hand, or quats, you hear that a lot. These are among the most extensively used disinfectants. They are skin and lung irritants. They can contribute to asthma as well, breathing problems, and also cause fertility issues. But how do you know if you have a quat? These are a little tricky because we're also familiar with bleach, but a quat a little more obscure. Quaternary ammonium compounds. Check the active ingredients on the label. Quats usually end in ammonium chloride. And some examples there: benzoalkonium chloride, alkyl dimethylbenzyl ammonium chloride. And that last one, I'm gonna leave to you to pronounce, but that's what you can look out for. And they're often used in disinfecting wipes. So these wipes, pretty common. Just don't use these wipes on skin or food, which I'm guilty of. I've done that. I didn't realize. Don't let kids clean with these disinfecting wipes. Remember, they're pesticides. They're killing microorganisms. So with that, I'm going to break to leave it open for some questions. And there's a polling question up there if you want to answer about how you do your cleaning. So I'm gonna turn it over to you for any questions, comments, anecdotes, experiences. Open it up.
Are you asking us, it's Eileen, how we do our cleaning with disinfectants? Or do we clean our own home? Not necessarily with disinfectants. What are you asking us here?
What kind of cleaning do you do essentially? Are you the one in charge of cleaning your workspace? Do you just clean your own home, or do you clean other people's homes for a living, or are
Not
you in the
necessarily
healthcare?
with disinfectants.
Right.
Okay.
Are there any other questions or comments that, I had another break for comments earlier in the presentation that I forgot to break for, if you want to, anything that anyone want to share up to this point before I turn it over to Laura?
Sure, I will. It's Eileen. Okay, so I'm pretty familiar with all this. And I'm just going to say that in a lot of workplaces, they use products that have quats. And the reason why is they're cheap. I looked into possibly having the use of thermoil, which I noticed, I think 7th generation does make a disinfectant with thermoil if somebody wants it for home use. But if you suggest, let's say in a work environment, you'll come back with thermoil is twice as expensive as a quat. And so that's why so many quats are being used everywhere.
Oh, that's
One thing we might ask, maybe Liz or Pam, who are also on this call from Turi from Toxic Use Reduction Institute, is I think that might be the case with Thymol, but there are a number of other alternatives. Liz or Pam, do you have any information on the cost comparability of some of the other alternatives that we're going to get into with quats?
Yeah, no, I have not. We haven't really looked into that. We've been really focused on the efficacy of the safer options. So I have not looked at that.
Yeah, and I think we haven't priced some of the ready-to-use products that are listed here, but we've done some investigation of the equipment that generates hypochlorous acid, like Force of Nature, and that's fairly inexpensive.
Except that would be small scale.
Absolutely. And there are companies that make hypochlorous acid generating equipment that's bigger and that you don't buy the capsules for, you mix yourself. And we've had at least one small business that has been using that and has thought it worked pretty well.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like Pam said, I don't know what the costs are of the other ready-to-use products.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is that those quats, they're used in schools. They're used in schools. They're used on the spaces for kids. I mean,
And they shouldn't be.
and then they're used in other public buildings because of the price. And they've been around, and if you want me to go into it, they were grandfathered in way back when, and they didn't get all the testing that they should have. And then after the grandfathering in of those quats, it was the who was it? It was like a firm, let's say a science firm that studies this. It was a firm that was hired by the quat manufacturers. So now California, you know how they ban things more than the rest of the world? Mm-hmm. A group of scientists were reviewing quaternary ammonia, and there was a debate between a couple of MIT researchers and the people, the scientists at the company hired by the Quaternary manufacturers, and all 9 scientists declared that Quaternary ammonia should be put on the danger list and get further studied. In the meantime, they're still used, and I think the EPA, what is it? Which is the one with the N list? I forget.
EPA.
Okay.
Yeah, the EPA is going to put out a document about quaternary ammonia, but I don't have a lot of faith. I'm sorry to admit.
There's actually one other thing that's going on right now. Liz, can you explain what's happening with the, can you explain the role of Tura and what's happening right now with quats in Massachusetts?
Yeah, so the Toxics Use Reduction Program has a list of toxic or hazardous substances, and most of the chemicals on that list are from other EPA lists, but it turns out that quats are not on that list. And just sort of your comment about grandfathered in, they just never kind of got put on those lists. And so our Science Advisory Board has been reviewing them for the last year or so, and will probably be making some kind of recommendation fairly soon. So we have quite a bit of information we've gathered on the 2 most common kinds of quaternary ammonium compounds and the health effects. And there are concerns about asthma, concerns about reproductive toxicity. That's the big debate that they've been having in California about whether the recent studies really prove that that's an issue or not. So, and there's certainly issues that that Ian already mentioned about potentially creating resistant bacteria. And they're the ones he was referring to that are kind of sticky, that hang around on your surfaces, which make them not a good choice for food prep areas and stuff. So, so yeah, so that it's a good question, and we will try to make sure that we get some kind of synthesis of that information after our SAB gets done and get that out to people.
Mm-hmm. Is this Elizabeth Saunders?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm Liz Harriman. I'm with the Toxics Use Reduction Institute. Another Elizabeth.
Okay.
But, you know, also, Eileen, I think that's a really good point about cost. And I think that that's something we could make an effort to do some research on, to try to see if there is some study out there looking beyond Thymol at the other ingredients, and maybe we can look at trying to, you know, not a comprehensive study, but maybe digging in a little bit and trying to get some information on cost comparability of some of the other items.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously health, you know, obviously it's harder to price, but if you're, you know, if you're a commercial cleaner and your janitors are out sick, or, you know, that's part of the cost to you. And so that's always, you know, part of the case. It's helpful to make that's not just the, you know, price on the label. But I think that's a really good point, and I think we should try to figure that out a little bit more, the cost comparability issue.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that schools can use, this is Liz Harriman again, I believe schools can use the state environmentally preferable purchasing list in order to purchase things. And I think, so we can check there and see whether there's information about the cost, which would be more for schools and other places.
There's bulk purchasing, so it's cheaper.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that everybody knows what we're talking about, though. So just quickly, the Massachusetts has an environmentally preferable purchasing list and a whole program, and they have lists for a number of different types of products, for furniture, for paints, for cleaners and disinfectants. And they negotiate a lower price. All of the cleaners and disinfectants on their list have to be third-party certified, which we're going to talk about in a minute. And they all have to have one of the healthier chemicals that we're going to talk about when we start talking about this slide.
Are you saying the quats are not on that list?
No, they're not on that list.
Interesting.
So for state agencies, so unfortunately, schools are city-based, right? But for state agencies, they may not use bleach or quats in cleaning state facilities.
Yeah. The problem is like you're kind of fighting people or trying to change people who really don't want to change.
Yeah.
This is your disembodied tech voice letting you know we're about 20 minutes out from 6. And also, I think there was a question in the chat asking about vinegar and baking soda as a disinfectant.
I am going to throw that to Liz. I think for COVID, I do not think it is one of the, I mean, it's cleaning is fine, but for disinfecting for COVID, I do not believe that that is.
Yeah, hi, this
effective.
is Pam from Turi, and I did respond to that one, and it makes for an excellent cleaner, but I wouldn't, you can't rely on it to disinfect, meaning to reduce the number of germs down by 99.99%. So excellent cleaner degreaser. I would not rely on it to give you disinfectant results.
Oh,
Can I ask one more question about the, we use 70% rubbing alcohol to clean our keyboards, at least our personal ones that we share with each other. Is that good?
That's isopropyl alcohol. So if you're looking at this slide, that is certainly one of the products.
Yep.
And in fact, for electronics, that's a much better choice than some of the other choices.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
so are we doing a slide, a poll first, or should I just go
go
to the
for
start? Okay, so hi, I'm Laura Spark. I work with Ian Hip and Mario Fernando Zamora and Elizabeth Saunders, who many of you know at Clean Water Action. I'm in the Boston office as a policy advocate. I am going to go through just the next couple of slides. We only have a few more, but we're going to take a little bit more time with each one and then do an activity at the end. So list N has 535 different disinfectants that are effective against the virus that causes COVID. As Ian just said, and Eileen also reinforced, a lot do have bleach or quats, but list N also includes many safer options. So safer disinfectants are going to include one of the chemicals on this slide. These chemicals will kill bacteria and viruses, but do not put you at risk for other health problems. So just a quick look at the list. First, as we just said, alcohol, ethyl alcohol and isopropyl alcohol can be an ingredient within disinfectant products that are on list N. But in addition, also, as we just said, Centers for Disease Control says that you could use either of these types of alcohol on their own at 70% concentration to disinfect. So that is also a relatively more affordable option. You absolutely do not want to use methyl alcohol, which is a carcinogen. So you need to remember no on methyl alcohol. Other safer options that are listed here and are in a number of products on list N are hydrogen peroxide, citric acid, lactic acid, peracetic acid, sodium bisulfate, and hypochlorous acid. One caution, all of these are safe when used on their own. However, hydrogen and peroxide and peracetic acid are sometimes mixed together in products, and you do not want to use a product that has both of those ingredients, because when combined, hydrogen peroxide and peracetic acid, can cause or trigger asthma. So Untitled, which Eileen also brought up, that is an ingredient that we are not putting on our list of safer disinfectants. And the reason for that is that the Toxic Use Reduction Institute, or TURI, which is their acronym, they don't recommend Untitled because it is a skin sensitizer. A sensitizer is a chemical that may not cause a problem the first time you're exposed to it, but with repeated exposures, it increases the risk of some sort of immune response, like in the case of skin, a rash, or an allergic reaction. So are there any questions about this list of safer chemicals? These are the ingredients that you want to look for on the label of any disinfectant that you are looking to buy to address coronavirus. Now, the challenge for us is you may not want to spend hours researching list N. In that case, Toxic Use Reduction Institute has done much of the work for you. Oop. So there are 3 links here, and unfortunately we are sending you to other web pages, but these are very useful. This first link is Toxic Use Reduction Institute went through List N, pulled out all of the products that had the safer disinfectants and have listed that in a chart on their website. And we're going to go take a look at that specific chart in a minute. But that lists all of the most of the safer disinfectant options. Separately, Environmental Working Group, which a number of you may know that nonprofit, they're a national nonprofit that works on a wide variety of environmental issues, including toxic chemicals. They also have a safer disinfectant list. That is the second link on this slide. Their list is a little different from Tory's because they are comfortable with Thymol. They're not concerned about Thymol's skin sensitizing issues. So they put it on their safer list. Tory does not. You can use either list to sort of make your choices about whether you're comfortable with Thymol or, particularly like I tend to get rashes with things, so I avoid it. One other thing that Environmental Working Group has that is a very useful resource in general is in addition to their list of, I think it's 16 safer disinfectants, they have a general cleaning database. Their general cleaning database, which is a third disinfectant, it's not disinfectant, excuse me, the third link. It's not COVID specific. It's just a list in general of 2,000 different products that can be used for cleaning or disinfecting. That third link is particularly helpful if you're looking for cleaners. So as you know, we're talking mostly today about disinfectants and what is a safer disinfectant to use against COVID. And in general, for cleaners, we're saying just use soap and water. But it may be that you're not sure, well, what cleaners are just soap and water and don't have other chemicals that I might be concerned about. That's where that third link and that Environmental Working Group database can help you, because you can go in, you can put in products or just sort of browse around and see which ones have fewer chemicals of concern, which might have a few more. So the next slide gives you, shows you what the Toxic Use Reduction Institute's list actually looks like. Hold on one second. And so this is a Tory's chart, and this shows you the kind of information that you're going to find when you go there. As you can see, the first column has the name of a list of products. Then when you're in the fourth column, you can see that there's what the active ingredient is. All of those ingredients are one of the active ingredients we were talking about, one of those safer ingredients we were talking about a couple of slides ago. And then you see a few columns on the EPA registration number and also the contact time, the amount of time that the product needs to remain wet on the surface for it to actually work. One other thing to notice when you're looking at lists like this, you notice that there's some familiar names on the list like Comet and Lysol. But both of these manufacturers also make lots of hazardous cleaning products. So if you want to get the safer product, you need to use to focus on the exact name listed here. So the exact disinfecting bathroom cleaner that Comet makes. And you can also, to make sure, you can always check the EPA registration number, which is going to be on the bottle, and that will make sure that what you're buying in the store is the right type of Comet. If you don't want to kind of go from store to store and try to figure out which one actually has what you're looking for, Tory has done a hyperlink so that once you click on a product, you will go to the product's manufacturer's website, and they will show you a number of places, largely chain stores, big box stores, where you can buy the product. So in the case of Comet, it's at Lowe's, it's at Home Depot and Walmart, Staples, and a couple of other of the larger chain stores that are located around here. So next slide. So this is the last slide I'm going to talk about before we kind of go to a summation and then the activity. So what if you find yourself in a store, you have to buy something and your cell phone is powered off, or less likely, you might be like me and be one of those people who never really got with the program with cell phones and doesn't carry one around. This is where third-party certifications can be very helpful. So in general, when you see claims on a cleaning product that something is non-toxic or safe or green or bio-based, those are actually just marketing claims and they don't really mean anything. There's no regulation of marketing claims. So you can't rely on the words on a product. But some products that you'll see will have one of these logos on them. And all of these logos are reliable. These are all third-party certifications. A third-party certification is what it sounds like. It means that an independent organization has researched the ingredients in the product and confirmed that there aren't any chemicals of concern. The third-party certifier also assesses to make sure that the product performs as it's described on the label. So these third-party certifications are going to be reliable for choosing safer cleaners as well as disinfectants. So in the case of cleaners, if it has one of these logos on it, you're fine. It is going to be safer and will not have any chemicals of concern. If you're looking for a disinfectant, the key label to look for is the design for the environment. That's the Environmental Protection Agency has two different logos that it uses: Safer Choice for cleaners in general, and then for disinfectants in particular, it has uses Design for the Environment, which is a separate certification process. I'm going to quickly go through what the different, just very quickly, what the different logos are. They're all relatively similar in terms of what they exclude and the kind of, there's some minor differences. But just so you know who did what, Green Seal was the first of the cleaning certifications. It was created in 1989. So they were first out of the gate, and they primarily still focus on just cleaning products. They have logo, again, the logo is on the product. They also have a searchable database. You can search by home-based products or business-based products, which can be very useful, and can look through that to find things before you're actually in the store. They've also expanded to do a couple of other kinds of products like toilet paper and other kinds of paper products and cleaning services. Environmental Protection Agency, obviously, is a federal agency. They have one standard for cleaning products, and they have a searchable database. This one's particularly good for very specialized applications, including institutional applications. So they'll give you floor. We'll answer about pine oil in a second, because I think that's a really good question. And then Design for the Environment, one of the things that's particularly useful about that separate certification that EPA has is you can check a box and check just for disinfectants that are effective against coronavirus. So what that means is you can go to Listen and kind of start doing all the research yourself. But if you want to save yourself some time, and if you're looking for disinfectant, you can go to the TORI site and just look at their chart. You can look at the Environmental Working Group's chart of disinfectants, or you can go to the Design for the Environment list of disinfectants. And on all three of those sites, you're going to see disinfectants that are safer and do not have any chemicals of concern. No carcinogens, no mutagens, no asthmagens. And then Ecolog is the last of the certifications. It's done by, Underwriters Laboratory. They've been around for 100 years. They're a safety testing nonprofit. They're international. They certify lots of different kinds of products, including cleaners. I think the downside of that logo, again, you can rely on it when you see it in a store, but it is they don't have a searchable database. And again, just to clarify, of these, Design for the Environment is the only one that's telling you that can tell you directly that something's safe against coronavirus, or is effective against coronavirus. For all of the others, the logo is just telling you that it's safe. If the label says that it can be used against coronavirus and there is the logo on it, then it can be used against coronavirus because the third-party certifier has checked for that. But if the label doesn't say anything, then the logo is telling you that it's safe, but you may need to, again, check on list N to see if it's also effective on COVID or the virus that causes COVID. So next slide, please. So just to recap, you want to disinfect when you absolutely need to, but because disinfectants can be harmful to your health, you want to be very careful about just using disinfectants when you absolutely need to use them. You also must always clean first, then disinfect. Even if you're using a product that does both things, then you need to take 2 steps: the cleaning step with the product and the disinfectant step. Take protective measures, and when you can, choose safer alternatives. So that is our presentation. We are going to go to one, we have a few minutes left, and we are going to, the last slide has some additional resources, but we wanted to do a quick interactive activity if we can keep you on for another 5 or 10 minutes. And I was going to bump it back to Ian to do that.
Hey, it's me again. Thanks for hanging with us. This slide is designed to just get a little practice. You know, it helped me to actually look at a product after doing all this, and I think it could help you too, depending on your experience level. So real quick, go grab a disinfectant or a cleaner from under your sink or in your bathroom and take a look at it with us. So I'll give you 30 seconds to a minute to do that.
Ian, did you want to have the slide up?
Is there a slide up right now?
No, I think we got to get it put up.
Yeah, may as well. Mario, can we get that interactive slide up? There it is. Great. Well, why don't we take a look at our products? Hopefully you've been able to come back with a product that we're going to take a look at. So we're going to ask some questions, and I'm going to walk you through a little bit of what I found with this Windex product here. It was kind of interesting. So is it a cleaner, disinfectant, or both? Sometimes it'll say right on the front label. You know, this one does. Disinfectant, cleaner. Okay, so that means when I use it for cleaning, I'm probably going to use it differently than if I use it for a disinfectant. If I use it for a cleaner, I'm going to use it for a cleaner, and then I'm going to use it again as a disinfectant. Does it have a seal from the EPA Safer Choice Program or any of the other seals that we saw? This one does not. What are the active ingredients? And keep in mind, these disinfectants don't need to list all their ingredients, you know, but oftentimes they'll list the active ones. This says that L-lactic acid, which is one of our safer alternatives, is the primary active ingredient. Assume that y'all are following me and you're able to look at it. And once we're done with this, we can stop for questions and we can talk about it a little bit more. But we'll just keep going. Does it have bleach or quats? You know, and look for in the active ingredients, there's ammonium chlorides. That's what it is. And can you find the EPA registration number if it's a disinfectant? It's definitely on this one. And the weird thing about this label is that it's on the inside of the label. So you have to look through the liquid to actually see it, which isn't ideal. I feel like they should have been able to get another sticker, that's bigger to have all this. I don't know. It seems like a strange way to cut cost. And then the dwell time. Does it have a dwell time? Is it effective against COVID-19? The interesting thing about this is it's a cleaner, sanitizer, and disinfectant. It has different instructions for each. So when you're using it as a cleaner, it just says spray on, wipe off with a lint-free cloth. As a sanitizer, it says spray on, let it sit for 10 seconds, and then wipe it off. As a disinfectant, it says spray on, leave for 10 minutes, and wipe it off. So it just has different instructions depending on how you're using it. And then it also will have a list of the things that it fights, like the different viruses, rhinovirus, and all these other viruses that it's kind of tough to read through there, staph. But it doesn't list coronavirus or human coronavirus. And I looked it up and it is effective against coronavirus. So even if it doesn't list it, check it against list N on the EPA's website to find out for sure if it is effective. So this one in particular is, but I hope you were able to get a little out of that exercise. And since we're out of time, pretty much out of time, I'm going to end it there. We'll go on to our last couple of slides just with some additional resources from whenever you get this sent out to you. You can look for more information on these, and then our contact information is there at the end. Keep in mind we're able to do trainings like this for you, for your colleagues, or people, groups and organizations that you're in contact with. So feel free to reach out to us, and we're happy to give another presentation. So thank you everyone for joining us today. Please feel free to stick around and ask questions, discussion, talk about your cleaning products, anything like that. So we'll be around for a little bit. Take care. Have a great night.
Yeah, it's interesting. I know Raquel is on this, who cleans professionally. It might be interesting what her thoughts are. Raquel, what kind of products do you use?
Hi, I use the one they call Diamond 1000. We have a bunch of commercial clients, and before we have the products, we search at the EPA list to find great product that can be used for a food industry and house and home. To be honest, I don't know exactly the chemical around, but I know it's safe for to use.